Hello and welcome to this episode of CareerCast. This is a series that we're doing here at Personal Career Management to really offer some advice and perhaps some useful insights and tactics into helping you with your career at what we appreciate is a tricky time at the moment. And to help me, I've got two members from Personal Career Management with me. Welcome to Colin Lloyd, Joe Thurman and Adrian Marsh. Welcome to you.
Morning.
Morning.
So, lovely to see you. I thought what we would look at today perhaps is how to find a job. So where are they? So you're all braced, you're ready to move. Where do you look? Where do you even start? And I think we have, a lot of time clients come to us and say, I've been spending hours kind of trawling through websites, seeing what's on there and not having much success. But let's just start with the advertised job market. And perhaps, Colin, I could come to you and ask, how do you use those recruitment sites effectively, time efficiently?
Sure. I think there's a lot of specialist websites out there that you can use, but people's first port of call is something like an aggregator, like Indeed. And that's fine to use it. Just make sure you put in the right search criteria in. But certainly, if you are kind of specialized in what you do, hunt out those specialist websites. On top of my head, legally, totally legal, or if you're an executive, maybe Guardian or Telegraph jobs. And what it will do, it will narrow down your search and give you access to more specific jobs, which maybe you're better qualified for. But again, nothing wrong with using the general job boards, but for specific needs, go to a specific site.
Yeah, so be really careful about which ones you're spending your time on in the first place. And Joe, when you're on that website, are there kind of more time efficient ways to manage your search within that?
Yeah, I think there's the advanced search tools on something like Indeed can be really, really helpful because you can search for specific groups of words. So rather than criteria, as in this is a job in HR or in automotive, you can actually just put in, for example, a skill you have, a qualification you have in the exact phrase. So what that allows you to do is really laser in on jobs that are being posted very widely on recruiter job boards, on company websites, and indeed on a mass of other job boards. But look for specifically for one thing you have that is a skill that you want to use in your future job search. That cuts through all the noise of page after page of jobs that are a little bit like what you want, but not perfect.
And I guess kind of looking at things like email job alerts as well, saving yourself some time, setting up some automated systems on that would help as well. Thank you. So Adrian, if we then look at some of the jobs that aren't advertised, the unadvertised job market, there's an awful lot of talk about, well, what is the unadvertised job market? Yeah. What is it? And what should we be doing to go out and find it?
Okay, well, I guess, there are an awful lot of, large numbers bandied around about how many jobs are unadvertised. And I think, I wouldn't worry too much about what the percentage is, but there are a large number of jobs that aren't advertised. It does include, for example, internal hires, but also jobs are often not posted because people, employers look for different ways of hiring people. Employee referral schemes, for example, are very, becoming more and more popular. People use headhunters. So the way to tap into those are, I guess, two really effective ways are networking, and that's something we're going to talk about as a big topic, and making sure that you are visible to people. And that means your LinkedIn profile is as good as it possibly can be, and that you are plugged into a network of recruiters, headhunters, so that, if there is a job that they know about that isn't advertised, they know that you could be a candidate for it.
Great. So, let's just take one of those strands. And if we think about networking, Joe, let me come to you and say, who should you be networking with and how?
Well, you should be networking with people that know you professionally. You've worked with them in the past. So that could be ex-line managers. It could be people that work directly for you. So team members. It could be your peers. It could be customers. that you've worked with in the past, because all of those people, if they have an idea of who you are and what you want, could be over an opportunity for you. So they could be, you've got more eyes and ears. They could be seeing an advertisement and sending you a link saying, saw this and thought of you. So that's really the place that I would start.
Colin, how do you let people know that you might be looking for them? Because that's something that clients often ask us, don't they? So, well, yes, I understand networking is really important and I should be doing lots of it, but what do I actually say to people when I am networking?
I'm looking for a job. Tell them and tell them again. You need to, without being flippant, you need to be able to help them to help you. They will be an advocate for you, but you need to give them some information. I know I work with a client, and one of the things that he did when he was going to networking events, because a lot of the formal networking events, they will ask you for a business card. And he felt, oh, I haven't got a business card. What do I do when they ask for a business card? And we decided between the two of us, he got some printed up, just with the type of sector he was looking in and the telephone number and an email address, so that if there was one of his contacts was talking to somebody who had maybe something, the contact could literally give him a card and say, look, I don't know much about this guy. I've met him. He's looking for a job. Maybe you want to give him a call. So there's practical things that you can do at a very low level that help people help you. Because a lot of the time, people are generally speaking are quite helpful. If you say to them, look, I'm looking for a job, and they'll say, oh, well, I might know somebody. You need to give them something, be it a CV or a business card, and follow up as well. I think we can be a little bit reticent and not want to impose on people. But if someone says, oh, I think they're looking at our place, then give it a week or so and then chase that lead down and follow it up as you would normally.
Mm-hmm. And Joe, I think you wanted to kind of come in and talk about this.
Yeah, I literally was working with a client earlier today, and we had this self-same scenario, and she was incredibly uncomfortable about reaching out and letting people know that she was looking for work. So we role-played it, and I said it to her about her previous boss. So I played him and role-played it with her, and I said, now, how do you feel? And she went, I'd do anything to help. So it's like, okay, so how does it feel different? And why does it feel different the other way around? And that really helped her see she wasn't asking, she wasn't imposing, she was just letting people know so that if they heard something, they could be helpful and they want to be helpful.
And, you know, at the moment, we're not going to networking business dues, not physically. It's all kind of taking place online at the moment. But any kind of tips or tactics? Has anyone been to some of these online networking events at the moment? And what's your take on those and how useful are they?
Yeah, I've certainly been to online networking events. I'd say some are more useful than others. Some have made a really good and powerful transition to continuing that way. So I think it's just a question of experimenting, seeing what's available around you, and try dipping your toe into a few of them, and you'll soon find out which ones work well for you.
Yeah, because I think this is a real growth area, actually. And I know, Joe, you've been to a few lately as well, because what's great about them is that they are more accessible. It's not like you're having to, after work, go and, to a pub somewhere or, an after work do. They seem to be much more accessible and actually more structured than a lot of kind of networking events where you're trying to work your way around the room and trying to understand who's there and things. So actually, I think there's a lot to offer, a lot of really good stuff about the online networking at the moment.
I think they're really helpful. I'd reiterate what Adrian is saying, though. There is so many to choose from. So it is about giving it a go. And you go to networking not necessarily to meet your future employer, but you are going to networking to make relationships, build trust, learn something, meet somebody new, you to help them as much as they might be helping you. So it's not necessarily the quick win if you're going to a networking event, but I agree with Adrian, just give them a go. And because they are now online, you can go to ones which might have felt too far away geographically before, because you're not spending the time travelling.
Thank you. Adrian, you also mentioned, I think, about some direct approaches that might be part. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, this, just a little anecdote to show this can work and can be very effective. A client of mine was tracking the news about companies that he was interested in, which is something I would definitely, recommend as well. And saw that, a company that was interested in joining in the UK had been acquired by a US company. And so he had some very indirect connections. And back to networking, that's also worth noting, is it doesn't always have to be just someone that you know really, really well. It can also be, someone that you indirectly know, or perhaps you worked in the same company, but not at the same time, but there's some sort of connection between you. So he reached out to a senior person in the US company, used a bit of flattery, another thing which doesn't go amiss in this whole space, talking about what a smart and interesting move he thought this acquisition was, and he'd love to have a chat about, what their strategy was and their plans. Didn't mention at that stage anything about, job opportunity, but had, got to have a chat with the CEO of this acquiring company. And lo and behold, it transpired they were looking to see how they were going to build their management team in the UK, and the guy got the job as a result of that. So yeah, just direct approaches like that can be very effective. But I think what makes it effective was like he'd done his research, and so it was a very targeted approach, and it seemed like it was going to be a useful conversation for the person that he was writing to as well. So he had a lot of information about the UK market, so he could offer that up.
It really does work, the direct approaches kind of tactic, isn't it? And I think we've all got, as coaches, we've all got lots of examples of people from, CEOs downwards to people who've successfully found their next role that way. Are there any other ways, Colin, you think people should be looking for the next job?
I think one of the most obvious ones, which is, recruiters, they do have access to a lot of the advertised jobs, and also some unadvertised ones as well. And I think it's always worthwhile building some really good quality relationships with recruiters of choice. Not too many, but certainly build a close relationship with a recruiter that you can trust, who specializes in what you do, and really get to know them. I was working with a client not so long ago, and they basically were talking to a recruiter, and there was a job that the recruiter was looking at, which was nothing to do with what the client was experienced in. The recruiter was looking at the quality of the people that were being put forward in interview for this job. I rang my client and said, look, I'm not being funny, but I've got something here, a little bit left field, but would you? He said, why not? He went for the interview, got the job. And it's in a field that he would not have applied for a job in, but because of that relationship with the recruiter and the recruiter's trust in him and his ability, put forward, interviewed, got the job. So yeah, you never know. But it is about trust and finding somebody that you feel you can work with. I would tend to work with specialist recruiters as well, people that know your marketplace, because they can act as a better advocate for you because they understand what you do.
Mm. And Joe, does it always mean that, if you're looking for a new job, that it needs to be out there in the job market, or, can it be closer to home?
Well, it could be that there are opportunities within the organisation that you are already working in and that you don't know are live, that might be coming live. So being internally networked is also really important. One of my favourites, I think, was a guy I worked with who really, his outside work interests were where he got the most joy, and inside was functional. And an opportunity came up within that firm to move closer to something a bit more in line with that, which was going to involve writing. So he made an application and he was turned down. It was when he was turned down, we discussed how do we move forward from that. So we suggested going back and getting some feedback. So how could I learn? I'm really interested. Could I come back and have another go the next time? Or is there anything else I could do now? And they gave him the opportunity to write something. And his written skill was fantastic. And he got offered the job right at the top of the band. And he moved across from one functional area to another, which you would never have expected. and I don't think they expected. And he absolutely loved it, and that is now how he earns his living independently. He's now self-employed.
So, Adrian, are there other things that you can do in situ that might open up some new opportunities for you?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Corinne. Thank you for that. Yeah, there is often a lot of scope to actually shape your job, your existing job, what we call job crafting. You can craft it in different ways. Maybe it's you can talk to your manager about focusing more on tasks that you think add the most value and perhaps that you enjoy the most, and offloading some other tasks to somewhere they could be handled more efficiently. There's also the opportunity to, if you're interested in working with a particular type of people, different departments, for example, then that's another way that you can craft your job. So it's always worthwhile having a discussion with your manager and thinking, how can I shape the job that I'm doing to make it more interesting for me and perhaps more valuable for your employer as well?
Great, thank you. So just kind of summing up, if you've got a top tip for somebody who's looking for their next job, where should they be looking and what should they be doing? Colin, let's come to you. What's your top tip?
I think it starts off with being across all the possible outlets, which is with technology is quite easy to do. So I think if you're looking at the job board, set up your searches, and if you're in touch with recruiters, make sure that you're keeping in touch with them and you're keeping them advised as to where you are and what you're looking for.
Fantastic, thank you. And as an ex-recruiter, you know your stuff there, Colin. Now, you were a headhunter, Joe, but what's your top tip?
Well, just picking up on that really with Colin, I'd be saying make sure the people that know you and value you know that you're looking and what you're looking for. So you're not doing the job search on your own. Thank you.
And final from you, Adrian.
I'd say LinkedIn is becoming more and more important. So use LinkedIn to the full and learn about some of the sort of more advanced things that you can do with LinkedIn. And making yourself visible to recruiters, for example, in companies where you've set job alerts. So that can help you be one of the first people to know that something's come up in a company that has got a job to post.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much. Have a good week, and we hope that that's been useful for you. Goodbye from us.
Bye.
Bye.